so that I could get there by 6, because I'd have a 6 to 10. So she's taking her vacation hours. Is that how that went? I can't believe you wasted your vacation hours on me. That's so nice of you. So that she could sit there and wait for me to finish voice acting and then get home at 10. So she was having more than 12-hour days so that I could start to explore this potential career path. So like, yeah. And now here we are. So yeah, and you know, I love my dad. I don't think he would have done this for me. I just don't see it. I think he would have dipped the bucket in the well and it would have come up dry. So yeah, that's how I got into it. And I have also, gosh, so the script work I got into by, I was a history major. If you have any questions about Greco-Roman ancient history, I'm one of your guys. Big fan of Carthage too. That's the first republic that we know of to have been in Africa, which is really cool. I realized that history was probably not a good career path in and of itself, and I also developed a love for writing, just because I decided I'd do a writing minor to go with my political science minor. And I submitted a short story to a college contest, and I won. And so after I graduated with my history degree and moved back in with my parents and started waiting tables at a burger joint like you do, my dad was like, hey, have you thought about writing for Funimation? And I was like, oh, no, I hadn't. And he's like, you should send them that short story you did. And I was like, that's so smart, why didn't I think of this? So I did it. And they liked it, and John Bergmeyer was the head writer then, and he sent me an audition script, and I worked incredibly hard on it, harder than I've ever worked on a script ever since. And I sent it to some directors that I trusted to give me feedback on it. That's something I really recommend if any of you are about to like submit a life-changing piece of work, is definitely submit it to people you respect and ask them to tear it up. Because I remember Jerry Jewell, he tore that thing up. So it ended up being good. And so I got hired, and then I worked on Tokyo Ghoul, doing script work. Let me explain the script work thing. Basically, we aren't allowed to manipulate the flaps, which are the animated mouth movements. A lot of you probably already know this. Because of that, the subtitle translation, which is usually a bleached down, I actually just came up with the right terms to describe this. Subtitles are forced to bleach out a lot of the detail and context of the translation so that they can be as concise as possible, because when you're watching action, you want to quickly absorb the info and then go back to the pretty pictures. So your job as a dub writer is to recolor in that empty space that is created. Literally, like, you know, the translation might be, I'll kill you, and then the actual flap count is enough for it to be like, I'll kill you, you son of a blank, you know? And that's more than twice as long. So you need to figure out, I'll kill you with this very hand is another way someone might say it. Or I'll kill you like you killed my brother might be another way that you could say it, depending on the context and what's going on. And so if you have the manga, that's great, because the manga doesn't have to bleach out that detail. And so you can actually color in your, Mona Lisa with the colors from the original Mona Lisa. But if you don't have that material, you need to color it in with, your own inner artistic spirit. And there's nothing for it except to do your best and hope that people don't hate it or realize that, there was something you missed. Attack on Titan is a great example of this. There is stuff that we straight up missed in the Attack on Titan dub. I think that we did really good work on it overall, but there were some things that we just didn't know were gonna come back. So at the very beginning, there's this bit where Armin is talking to Eren, and he's like, why do you want to see the world outside the walls so bad? Why is that so important to you? He's trying to get Eren to wake up, and Eren gets up, and in the Japanese he says, because I was born to this world. In the English dub, we needed it to be longer, so we had him say, because the world beyond the walls is my birthright. Okay? Well, 3 seasons later, also known as 8 years later, So, that line's coming out at a time when the manga isn't even far enough for us to be able to predict what the consequences of that line are going to be. Aaron's mom is going to be holding little baby Aaron, and she says, I don't need my baby to do anything special. He's special just because he was born to this world. And there ain't no way to say the world beyond the walls is his birthright. And that's enough. You can't make that the same words. So I had to divert there. And this is where I picked up into the Attack on Titan dub. So I had her say, he's special already because he was born to this world. And I was like, somehow, someday, I'm gonna make him come back together, somehow. And then it came up again because Willie Tybur is given this speech. Once you find out the big drop that there are people outside the walls, sorry if you hadn't watched it yet. You didn't know this is an Attack on Titan panel now. Let's go. Willie Tybur is like, I know that my blood is tainted with the sin of my ancestors. I know that the things that they did can never be forgiven. But I admit that despite all of that, I believe that this world is my birthright, just as it is yours. That's what we said in the dub. The original was, I confess that I still want to live because I was born to this world, just like you. But we needed it to be the birthright one for that because it had to be quoting Aaron, because Aaron hears it. He hears Willie Tybur say, I confess that I feel this world is my birthright, just as it is yours. It's this crowd of people who aren't of his tainted bloodline. And Aaron, he hears that said, and he's like, huh. And because Aaron has to register that as being his words through someone else's mouth, we know that we can't say born to this world there. It has to be the original line. So I'm like, okay, this ain't my spot. Bide your time, bide your time. And eventually, Aaron is going to say another line that's like this. He's talking to his brother about the Eldian, what's it called? The plan to make all Eldians sterile so that they die out of old age. I think it was called the euthanasia plan. Yeah. And he's like, what do you say, bro? And Aaron is like, this world is, no, he says the only way to be saved in this world is to never have been born. And so I had him say, this world is no one's birthright. It's a hell to be saved from. Because again, he needs to reference himself. He hasn't heard his mom. But eventually, in the final season, there's a line where I actually worked both words in and sort of managed to make a common thread between what he said and what his mother said. And I'm totally blanking on how that went, so go find it. But that is the imperfect art of dub writing. We are often working, you have 1 week to write your script, ideally. Sometimes you have 2.5 days to write your script if you're a full-time scriptwriter because you have 2 scripts to work on at the same time. And yeah, you gotta pump it out fast. And you also want to be true to the translation, but you also want to be, well, you want it to feel natural in context when it's said and where it's said. Yeah. So I was working on that for Fairy Tale, and Tyler Walker was my lead writer, and he also directed Fairy Tale. And he was like, hey, do you want to be my assistant director for Fairy Tale? And I was like, boy, does that sound better than waiting tables at a burger restaurant. And so I was like, yes. And so I quit waiting tables at the burger restaurant. I had tried to quit a couple times, but they were just like, that's okay, why don't you just take the weekend off and we'll talk next week. They were struggling to get people at that burger restaurant. And so I was like, okay. And then once I got the directing gig, I was like, all right, listen, I'm not coming in. I'm sorry, I'm very busy now. I have a real job, sort of. I was working 6 to 10 p.m., 2 nights a week at the time. But that built into me actually directing for a while, which meant I was actually making my living off of art. And then I think that switched to, there was this moment where they decided scripts needed to come out faster, and basically the head writer was like, if you quit directing, I will give you twice as much money for each script. And I was like, okay. And so I did, and I stopped directing, and then that guy ended up getting cut off, and they took all script writing into a full-time job, and they were like, there's no more contract script writing, which I really liked because, I don't know, you could really work on your own schedule from home, and you felt like your own person. They were like, now it's a full-time job, and the old gig is gone. And so I took that job for a year. And then I got cast in Dr.Stone, and started to get invited to cons because of Dr. Stone, and I was like, and Dr. Stone got onto Toonami, and I was like, listen, I think I'm gonna bet on myself. That was like the scariest thing I ever did, was quitting that job, and I'm so glad I did, because now I'm here, and all of you are helping me pay my bills. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I can't express how grateful I am for everyone that comes through and gets our prints with the signatures. It means so much to us. Gosh, it means like we can like take time to do classes. I've been doing improv classes and workshops and like investing in myself. And I've been writing a comic. And I just, and I still do script work, but now I can do it when I want to. And that just means so much. Anyway, if y'all have any questions about voice acting, script work, or directing, hit me. Yes?
How was it like working on Full Metal Alchemist?
I was 11 when I was cast. Which meant I was a 2-year veteran by one measure. But by another measure, I had spent all of 20 hours in the booth ever. So it was nuts. Absolutely bonkers. The cool thing is, Alphonse, you may have noticed, doesn't have a mouth that moves. I've wondered about this. Like, he can't feel anything, okay? Well, hearing is an act of feeling vibrations of hairs in your inner ear, right? So, if he can't feel anything, what's he actually experiencing when he hears someone speak? Which brings you to, what were his eyes doing? And I think maybe the reason he fell for Barry the Chopper's total BS is because maybe he can't actually like see people the way that we see people. Maybe he just sees like shadowy figures or auras, or he just detects that they're there without physically seeing it. And that makes me really sad, but also really empathetic towards him. And it also makes me wonder what like a cat looks like to him. A little demon shadow thing. And he's like, oh, come here. This reminds me, I've been looking at a lot of reptile YouTube, and reptile enthusiasts will tell you that a reptile can either see you as a threat, as food, or as furniture. And the goal is to be furniture. Weird furniture. And I think Al is weird furniture to cats. Not that they're reptiles, but I mean, between cats and dogs, cats are closer, I think. Anybody want to fight over that? Yeah, no, we all know. Even cat lovers know. They know what they're like. Nice. Do they get along?
They did. It was
Oh,
cool.
that's adorable.
It was a Chinese water dragon and the 2 cats. And so
Oh my gosh.
it was my big ginger kitty would just play with the lizard and it would not use claws or anything. And
That's
then
so
it
sweet.
was awesome.
Wow.
So lizard was cat toy and cat was lizard furniture.
Yeah. The perfect pairing.
Yeah, so I had to carry it home.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it obviously was a life-changing experience. I got to go to so many places because of Alphonse, and I don't think I'd be here now if it wasn't for Alphonse. So eternally grateful that Colleen and Mike took a chance on me for that, because they took a big chance, and honestly, I didn't totally fulfill all their hopes, I don't think, because I was very ADD. They had to like bribe me to pay attention for the full 4-hour session, like with like video games and snacks and stuff. I was not very grateful. Or professional. Yeah. I also would pick at the soundproofing film. I messed it up. Oh, there came a point where it was not as good for its purpose. Yes. Why would you do this to me, Mike? All right. Okay, so, yeah, I was 12. I've told this story hundreds of times, I think. But I was just starting to get away from it. It's okay. It's fine. I was just finally putting it behind me, my awkward days. Yeah. Okay, so I was sitting on a stool. And I would sit on this stool in between every single take. And the microphone, you can imagine, is like there, okay? And so what I would do is I would sit on the stool, and I would even lean back on the back 2 chairs between each line while Mike's giving his direction. You know, he's like, you're very sad. Someone you love's gonna die. And I'm like, okay. And then I hear there's 3 beeps, and at the 3rd beep, you're supposed to say the line. It says beep, beep, beep. I'm so sad. Please don't die. Okay, so what happened is I was leaning back, and the beeps came, and when I rushed forward, the 2 legs that I was sitting on, instead of moving like they should, like that, so that you're sitting normally, they slid out on me. And so my back met the back wall of the booth that I was in. It's like a little soundproof closet. And my legs were pushed into my chest by the stool that had fallen. And so I was like a little pretzel. So from Mike's perspective, he hears the 3 beeps, and then I'm gonna spare y'all, but chaos, bedlam. And then I'm like this, and he can't see me through the window. Small blessing. And I apparently said, "Help me," in a very pathetic, high-pitched voice. I can neither confirm nor deny. I don't remember, but that's how they like to tell it. Thanks for the question. What? Oh, the bowl. Yeah, there's a bowl in front of the microphone, and so when I fell, the bowl hit the microphone, and that's why it was so loud and jarring for all parties involved. It was like a dog bowl. Yes.
Which role did you have the most fun playing?
Huh. That's so interesting. I think I just have to give it to Senku. And again, it's the devious glee is the thing that I love about him. He and I share a heartfelt love for saying nice things in the worst way possible, and for putting our friends through productive hell. Like it's like the joy of a workout coach who's watching someone that's in pain but getting healthier. You know, like that's Senku whenever he's making people like pump the iron bellows in his forge, right? It's like we're all moving forward together. He's like, yeah, feel the burn kind of thing. And I don't know, I just had a blast with that dude. And there's something really special about Dr.Stone, which is that its magic system is real, but it's also still feels like a magic system. It both demystifies the confusion of technology and also makes technology feel as exciting as magic, I think is the thing that Dr. Stone really does that's amazing. And the other thing that's cool about it is just its central focus is rarely on violence. It's rarely on your capacity for violence, and is more on your on discovering how to solve novel problems, which is something that I think is more applicable to the average viewer than, say, Dragon Ball. You know, I rarely find myself thinking, you know, what martial technique will allow me to defeat this alien that's hell-bent on enslaving my species. That's just a Goku problem. It's not a problem that I can relate to. Yeah. Yes?
What was your favorite thing to say, like, as any of your characters? Like, what was the thing you love to say the most?
Honestly, it like kind of came and went, but like these days it's probably, make sure I have my full support for this. This is exhilarating. Get excited. Just because he just keeps saying it, first of all. But he also says it typically when he's gotten really bad news. It's like, there's an army on its way, like of super buff dudes that are coming to conquer us and probably kill you. And he's like, yeah, that's exhilarating. Like, he's just into it. Yeah, and it's also, I love that line because it's this great example of what dubbing can achieve, because the subtitle is just, this is exhilarating, but the words are something like, soseri wa iskate, or something like that. I'm totally butchering it, but it's like 5 syllables and then 4 syllables. And that doesn't really translate to, this is exhilarating. Like, it's longer than that, and it's a two-part statement. And so what we did is we looked at the manga, and the manga had translated that same phrase to get excited. And we realized that the flaps would fit. This is exhilarating, subtitles, and get excited from the manga. And we were like, we did both. And it fit the flaps. And it just was one of those magical moments where it happened to work out just so.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of that one. Yes.
Got any favorite bloopers?
Bloopers. Gosh. I'm trying to remember. We did, I did a show with Caitlin's class called, oh crap, I'm blanking. It was a show about a band. Fuka, thank you. Oh, you're in. I love that show. Yeah, it was called Fuka. And as sort of a promotional thing for Fuka, Caitlin was posting bloopers every episodic release. And they were hilarious. We just started to really like ramp up. This was like the golden age of bloopers. And so we would just drop bombs, which were deliberate bloopers meant to trip up your partner in the show. And I remember I dropped so many in this romantic confession scene where I just kept saying really out there stuff while Jeannie Torado was supposed to be like crying as she like tries to like confess to me. And I just ruined it for her. She walked into the booth, she stormed into the booth where I was directing right after I'd done that session. And she was like, you, stop it. And I was like, whatever did I do? So yeah, I enjoyed that arms race we had with Fuka. That was a blast. Yes?
Okay, so I want to ask too, like, I mean this in the most sincere way possible. Were there any times you went back to a role and you were like, oh, that wasn't my best work? Like,
oh yeah.
Like, if you had
all the time.
If you had to pick like one moment where you were like, I really wish I could redo that. Is there one like that?
I couldn't redo Eon Fortuna in Trinity Blood if I tried because he's higher pitched than me. But I think that my voice was just at a really volatile place whenever I did that part. And Mike really, wanted to keep working with me. But I think I made it really, my body just made it really hard. When you listen to the scenes, this is a vampire boy, and so he has these scenes where he's like struggling, he gets shot, and when a vampire is shot, they bleed a lot, and they want to replenish their blood. They have like an instinct to drink human blood to recoup their losses, right? And so I'm shot, and I'm in the same cell as this human who I'm really good friends with. And so I am like screaming at her to stay back while she's trying to comfort me, and I'm desperately wanting to eat her. And what you get whenever an actual 14-year-old does that and not an anime 25-year-old who's trying to sound like a teenager, what you get is a lot of shrill single notes. A voice is kind of a chord, but a voice that's cracking because of adolescence becomes a incredibly inorganic sort of shriek sound that registers as just one weird note. And that happened a lot in that scene. And then there were also, the parts where I'd go weirdly deep and then high, and it was just messy. Yeah, and so I have some regrets about that. It's basically my my trouble years are in a time capsule that I can go back to anytime.
Well, like obviously you can't redo like the Alphonse voice. Voice changes. You can't help that. But
Yeah.
But I mean that in the sincerest possible way. I always ask voice actors I really like that question because it's like reviewing your old homework. It's like I go back to papers. I'm like, oh, I really wish I didn't write that.
Yeah, and we all hope. I've been doing it for 20 years, so we all hope that we're better than we were 20 years ago.
I think you're very good, honestly, Aaron. Honestly.
Oh, thank you.
I wouldn't ask that question if I didn't already respect your work.
I appreciate it. Just to be sure that I'm not repeatedly missing some people, could we do only people who haven't asked a question yet? For now? Yes, in the back with your staff. Hi.
How do you keep your voice healthy considering that you leverage it and speak for a long period of time? That's
Yeah.
to be draining.
I haven't succeeded in doing that. I used to, people would ask me what I do for a warm-up, and I'd be like, sing System of a Down. Mom can attest, I would really scream it out. I thought the people who talked about vocal fatigue were big old crybabies. And now I have a condition called muscle tension dysphonia, which means that sort of as I speak to you, I periodically have little spikes of tensing up and of pain. And I got it because I basically didn't hold boundaries with a studio that was going super fast and just making me record as literally we were watching, imagine like watching an episode where you do half the talking in the episode and you are literally just chasing as you go, if that makes sense. So you have 23 minutes to record 23 minutes of material. And I did that we were going for like 3 to 4 episodes a day. And the character was super screamy and was very high pitched. And I just actually kind of created a condition that just makes my throat reflexively tighten up whenever I talk too much or scream a lot. And so now I have to be careful about what roles I take and stuff like that. And so the big piece of advice I have to anyone who is getting into voice acting or acting in general is if it starts to hurt, ask to leave and stop and be like, I'd love to come in and finish this some other time. There's a chance that the director will be unreasonable about that and that you won't work with them again. Good riddance. Because the directors you want to work with, the companies you want to work with are going to be totally with you. They want you to stay healthy. So yeah, that's my main point of advice. The other thing is stay hydrated. I drink water all the time, obsessively now. And now I'll also do yoga because if you have tension that you're carrying in your shoulders, that can affect vocal tension and stuff like that. There's also stuff there's a syrupy, slippery elm concoction you can find. I forget the name, but that throat coat stuff can be good. I recommend highly against anything that anesthetizes your throat, because that's just not telling you what damage you're doing, which is bad, in case you didn't know. You don't want to be like that James Bond villain.
I never watched that movie.
There's a lot of James Bonds.
That's okay. In the back, Senku.
How was it? You were a child actor who transitioned to adulthood. How is that transition when it comes to acting? Did you start to figure out how to work technique?
Yeah, it was weird for sure. So after Trinity Blood, I think, Mike and I both knew that it was okay, we're gonna take a break after this. And so I didn't get back into voice acting until maybe I would say we started going maybe once every 6 months or so from when I was 14 to 17, 18. Does that sound right? Yeah, we went really not very often. I'd get cast every now and then in a thing. But then when I got into college, I started to get cast more again. And it's hard to explain where I got good in there. Because I really wasn't good yet as Al. I had training wheels on. I had really good directors who were prepared to really take their time. And they also had the advantage of me not having any flaps. So I didn't have to try to chase mouth movements or predict mouth movements. I could just focus on the meaning of the script and the feelings and motivations of the character. And I think this is the other thing, is hitting my teenage years. When I was 11, I was sort of blessed with that natural grace of I'm not nervous because I don't know to be. I don't yet think about other people and what they think of me in a conscious way. And then, hormones in high school and the social struggles of high school. The experience of, and particularly, I would go from a convention like this, only this was the FMA glory days, right? So, it would be a bigger room than this and full, because FMA was this crazy phenomenon. And also because I'd have co-stars there who were sort of the real pools. And everybody would laugh at everything I said. Oh my God, I was so funny. And then I would go back to school and I'd crack the same joke and nobody would laugh. And I'm like, what is this? What happens? And then I even struggled to have people to sit with in my freshman year, for lunch. And so there was like a thermal weathering effect where it's like super hot, then super cold, and that was weird. And this resulted in me feeling very nervous at auditions. I would like get the shakes, and my voice would get quavery, and I'd try to imagine they were potatoes, and it wouldn't work. Our bodies are still human, you remember. And that's how I do my Tamaki voice, as I remember those days. But I think that anxiety, learning to get over that anxiety primarily by just stuffing my head with hypothetical thoughts of the characters, by getting more into reading and sort of writing my own fan fiction for every single audition, where, ideally you beat the nervousness of does this director like me by just instead thinking exclusively about do I like the person I'm speaking to? Does the person my character is speaking to like me? What do I want from them? What am I feeling? I always think about a character's emotional posture. So like Tamaki, anxiety. Everything is filtered through anxiety. If he's happy, he's nervous happy, right? If he's sad, he's nervous and sad. If Senku is feeling afraid, he's actually excited because he filters everything through a very confident filter. So basically, learning to stop focusing on myself was the way that I overcame that anxiety. But I think anxiety was the biggest struggle for me with voice acting, because a lot of voice acting is just empathy and reading comprehension. And then the other part is just overcoming anxiety. And so I was pretty good at doing flaps from going in once every 6 months for, the last 8 years. But when I was 19, I started to learn to put my focus outside of myself. And I think that's when I got good. Yeah, thank you, that's a good question. Yes, in uniform.
When you were a kid, did people at your school know you did voice acting, or did you kind of keep it on the down low?
I thought it would be weird to go in and be like, did y'all know that I'm an anime voice actor? And especially in high school, because in high school, it felt like it was something I had done in middle school, because Fullmetal Alchemist was when I was 11 to 14. 14 is when I did the last OVA. So it was really when I was 11 and 13 that I did the show proper. And in high school, Brotherhood came out, and I wasn't really in Brotherhood. And so it was almost like a thing that would be embarrassing to brag about, because it's like, did you know I was really good at soccer in middle school? I don't play anymore, really. I mean, sometimes they let me, but I'm not on the, team. I play in my backyard, so I felt weird about it. So I didn't really talk about it, but the pattern was kind of, I would befriend people, and then, typically through group assignments. I loved group assignments. They were my chance to shine. I'd be like, okay, all right, let's crack some fun jokes about chemistry. This is, never mind, I can't think of any. We're not gonna do it. So I'd make those friends, and then we'd get to hanging out, and about 3 months in, they'd be like, are you in anime? Are you in Fullmetal Alchemist? Are you famous? And I'd be like, oh, And that made it cool, even though it was when it was middle school, because I wasn't talking about it. So I think that it did help me a bit, but I didn't open with it. Yeah.
When you were doing scripts for animes, did you have a way to still enjoy the anime even though you were putting so much work into it?
Yeah, the first time that I cried while working on anime was while doing scriptwriting for Fairy Tail. Yeah, you know how they get you. It's always like I remember Wendy and Carla are getting ready to sacrifice themselves at this one point, and they're like, I'm so glad that, we got to meet each other, and I'm glad that I'm with you for the end. And then they get saved by some Deus Ex bullshit. And I was so mad. I'm streaming with tears, and I'm like, oh. Did you think I'd be glad you saved them? No, this is cheap. You've ruined it. They were ready. You should have let them go. Anyway, never been so mad that an 11-year-old girl and her cat survived.
Is that when she got her Dragon Force power? Was it during that scene?
I think yes, but then I think they were bringing a tower down onto their heads, and the super fast teleporter guy saved them. And I was like, that's bull. Ruins the sacrifice. Totally ridiculous. Anyway, I would cry because, you you're really analyzing the words and trying to understand where the character is coming from and reevaluating it and experiencing the same moment again and again. And every time I've gotten emotional in an artistic context, it's because of repetition for some reason. So like the one time I cried in Dr.Stone was when we're putting Tsukasa to sleep, cold sleep. And I just kept thinking that I needed to talk fast to get him through the hard part at the last line that I have, where I'm going on about the mushrooms, like making Mario trip balls. And what I was thinking to myself is, this is the hard part, get him through it. This is the hard part, get him through. And that just made me start crying. And you're forced to do that kind of repetition whenever it's script work, because you're gonna have to approach the same line 8 times if you want to make sure that you get the right length and right number of syllables. And so you're gonna sit there in all the sad moments and say them again and again with different variations, and that will make you sad, especially if you're trying to do a good job. So yeah, I think I got some tears in for Titan for sure. Oh my God. Oh gosh, I got to write the last episode of Titan. And Jesse Greeley, oh my God. I mean, I cried when I was writing Jesse's self-hate scene, the Armin telling his body to get up off the ground and yelling at it about betraying him his whole life. And you know, anyone who is not athletic can kind of relate to that. But it was like, when I was thinking about about Jesse performing it, I was like, oh my, this is gonna like blow everything out of the water. And no one has ever, you know, every single clip of a dub thing, people are like, sub was better. Not once with that scene and with Jesse. Jesse smashed that shit. If you haven't seen the last episode of Titan and Dub, do it. Armin's the main character, and Armin should be the main character. Oh my God. But yeah, I remember after I saw, this has happened twice in Titan, where I write a scene and then I see the actor and we just like hug. We just both know. And that was Irvin Smith, J. Michael Tatum, his last charge. We were just like, oh buddy, you did amazing. And same with Jesse after the last episode of Titan. Yeah. Bryce also walked up and said thank you, and that meant a lot to me, because I didn't know Bryce necessarily knew that I worked on it. Yeah. I hope that answered the question. What was the question?
If you were able to like enjoy the
right.
anime still, even after working.
Yeah, mostly I enjoy crying. Sometimes it's really fun to come up with a good joke as well. Like you can feel real smug about it, but then you're really protective of it. You're like they better say it the funny way. And you gotta let go. You gotta, once you write it, you gotta let it be what they want to make it. Yes, over there.
You don't have to go into like really personal details about it, but has there been times where you felt like maybe this career shouldn't be something I should be pursuing? Like you're down, like your lowest points.
Yeah.
And if there were, like, how did you get through those starts?
Okay. Yeah, the question for me was never, did I want to be a voice actor for a living? It was always just, is that possible? Is that something I should try to reach for? And because I got a nepotistic start, I kind of felt like I was just lucky, right place, right time, accepted with grace, and you know, the thing that both kept me humble but also kept me too afraid to invest in myself and actually pursue it hard like I could have, was the feeling that anyone could have done what I did if they'd been in the same spot, which is frankly something my father told me. He was like, anyone could have done that. You were just lucky to be there. And that kept me humble, which is important, because if you get arrogant, you also get insecure, and you become a very unpleasant person to work with and be around, and you end up like certain child actors turn out. So it kind of kept me level, you know? But it also made me think that I shouldn't really go that hard on it. I tried high school theater, and I didn't get cast in very big parts. I was terrified auditioning for high school theater, oh my God. But I did get some small parts, and I started to do it, and I had a really good time making friends with the theater kids. But I didn't audition for a play until my senior year, when I like actually had friends. And I could have auditioned when I was 14, but I was too nervous. The anxiety was too much. So like my darkest moment, because keep in mind, when I was 14, that's 5 years after I started voice acting. So that's kind of when I like least believed in myself. When I was in college, I thought I was gonna be law. I thought I was gonna try to be a lawyer, and that I would just go in whenever they asked me to for Crunchyroll. So I didn't really dare to hope that I could make it as a voice actor until I sent that short story in and got the offer for a script adaptation job, which is what that job has been for a lot of my colleagues. Script adaptation and assistant directing are the things that let people quit their day jobs. So important for our little ecosystem that we have those gigs, because they're like, well, they pay the bills, and voice acting, not so much. The real job of voice acting is often auditioning. And yeah, I mean, trying to audition for stuff outside of anime, and I'll tell you, I've gone a year without a new part before. So just keep in mind, I think it was, gosh, what's his name? Spike Siegel, that voice actor. Steve Bloom. Steve Bloom, I think, said that he gets 1 in 20, 1 in 30 parts that he auditions for.
Wow.
Most people say to shoot for 1 in 40. And that doesn't mean the part you audition for. That means 1 in 40 auditions, you want to get a part out of it, period. And if you get discouraged from the 39 failures, don't, because that's normal. Most of these casting directors are judging between thousands of people, and their decisions are based in a myriad of factors outside of your control. And every audition is, sometimes this feels more true than other times, but every audition is an opportunity to practice and get better. That's how I try to think of it. But yeah, it ain't easy. The question is always, can I be stable without getting another part right now? Can I pay my bills without getting another part right now, and still have a flexible schedule that allows for me to keep doing the work? And when the answer is yes to that, you know, whether it be from waiting tables at a burger restaurant, or whether it be because you found some scriptwriting gig or something like that, or you're super hybrid with your work, that's when you know you can really pursue something like voice acting, which is sort of, you know, for so many people, for the first 5 to 10 years, it's going to feel more like a hobby than like a career. So yeah, good luck, if that's why you asked. I don't know. Yeah? Okay. In the back. You two fight. Damn, just crushed him. Sorry, go ahead. I'll get you right after.
I came in a little late, so if it's already answered, I do apologize. But being late to Love is War Season 3, you got probably a unique experience in that everyone else had already done their recordings. You had something to come into, whereas that's not always the case. How is that experience different from other recordings?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, when I talked about the muscle tension dysphonia thing, that is why I was late to Love is War Season 3. I stopped voice acting. I stopped talking for like 2 months, and then I stopped voice acting for 6 months while I was trying to do therapy and get my business together. So when I came back, Cliff had already done the whole season. We thought he was just gonna cover for a couple weeks, but it just didn't come back. And eventually I kind of just realized, like, I need to accept a new normal, and that's why I'm working today. Which is a weird thing, but you know, I'm 31, these things happen, the body changes. I wrote an article about it, that it's about voicing this character named Chigiri in Blue Lock, who had like damaged his leg. I forget if it was ACL or what, but that guy's afraid to sprint, I was afraid to scream. And Love is War? Well, love is war. There is screaming. But it's deep screaming, it's masculine screaming, and they let me record from home, sort of at my own schedule. And Morgan came back because it was Love is War, Battlestar, not Galactica. What was it? Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Sorry.
You can be real hype, like, is there a BSG anime somewhere I've never heard of?
Yeah, no. This one is like space Nazis. A little bit. Come on. It's an imperialist faction, and it's trying to conquer the galaxy against a republic, and it's very German with the names.
Sounds like Star Wars.
Yeah, it is. It is solid. It's nice, high intrigue kind of stuff. Anyway, you were asking about Love is War. Coming back to Love is War, Cliff had already done a fantastic job on every single line. And we listened to him where I was like not sure how to do it, but mostly I went off the Japanese to kind of do my own thing. The cool thing was we already knew every single line worked because we already done them. So there's very few script changes. Mostly I felt really good about my ability to connect emotionally whenever it was serious scenes. That's where I felt like I was really able to excel because everybody else had already recorded. I just was able to lock right in and just listen to them and let them sort of draw certain reads out of me, which is the dream. That's every actor loves that, to just be able to like coast like that and vibe in the moment. The only scene that I have mixed feelings about is the rap scene. Because Cliff killed it. That dude is better at rapping than me, and I just have to accept that. Like, damn. The good news is that canonically, that rap is supposed to be mediocre. Hayasaka is like amazed. She's like, wow, he actually managed to make a solidly mediocre rap. And she's impressed that he got to mediocre because he used to sound like a dying sea slug, right? So, yeah, that's my defense. But if you want to hear that rap done really, really good, you should go on YouTube and just find Cliff's version. Other than that, it was amazing. It was a great experience to come back. And I'm really grateful to Crunchyroll for caring enough to pay 2 actors to do the whole thing. And I mean, there was like a rate hike for actor pay between when it was supposed to be done and when I actually did it, and they paid me the new rate. It's so sweet of them.
Okay, so.
Oh, I'm still gonna get you. I promise. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so throughout your career and possibly even sometime after this, is there any roles that you wish you may have had in the past, and possibly some new roles that you might want to try out?
This is a weird thing because nobody ever wants to be on the record saying, I want Justin Briner's job, right? Like, I respect my colleagues, and I think that, generally, I think that our directors are really good about casting. And I think there's a lot of valid reasons not to cast me. And I've always thought that, and remembering that is very important because you don't want to fall in love with an audition whenever you have a 1 in 40 chance of booking something off of it. The only time I've fallen in love with an audition was Moriarty the Patriot, actually, because I actually adapted a script for it. I actually adapted a script for that show before I ever got to audition, and I was like, oh my God. It's like, it's British, and me and my mom have always done British accents. We visited England, we were so excited, and we were just talking in British accents the whole time, and then we would go up to an actual British person, and we'd, hi, could I get a coffee? And we'd go, oh yes, so quaint, cheerio. We would like not make fun of, we would just try to emulate the BBC radio people on the news, all of it. And so I felt like I had a good British accent, and I also, one of my favorite hypotheticals to ask people in college was, if the top 10 richest people in the world died over the course of the next week, and then you found out that that was probably because of me murdering them, would you turn me in? It's one of those value questions where you can kind of find out if someone's your real friend.
Were they your real friend?
Yes, I have never gotten a I'd turn you in, which is wild. Like, I sure can't pick them, apparently. They'd be like, yeah, if I found out that you did that, no, I didn't. Yeah, and Moriarty the Patriot is a little bit of an Eat the Rich story. I've actually I didn't come up with this really, but I sort of noticed the metaphor. I've been reading about late stage ecosystems. So every ecosystem, has a pioneer species. You've heard of that, where it's like, you made a new garbage pile, and what are the first plants that sort of turn the dust you covered it with into livable material for all the other plants? So you got your thistle and your dandelions that come in and sort of convert that soil, through their own life and death cycle, and convert that dust into living soil with microbes and able to sustain eventually trees. And so then you get your trees, your trees coming in after, like some shrubs come in. And the trees have a succession of fast-growing trees and then slow-growing trees that get taller than those trees. And eventually, one of the only late-stage ecosystems that we have an example of is like the California redwoods. California redwoods are beautiful, and I'm so glad they exist, but they're a little bit like the super rich, because those ecosystems actually aren't as biodiverse as a lot of ecosystems with smaller trees, because these trees are crowding out all of the light. Like 98% of the light that's coming through, they're able to capture. So much of the water that comes in, they capture with their giant root systems. Carbon and nutrients are being massed inside of them, and so when one of them falls, it's a whale fall. I mean, it's a huge opportunity for the rest of the ecosystem to kind of expand its numbers. It's literally like if you've seen those like aquatic things where a whale falls to the bottom of the sea, and all of a sudden it's like bedlam. It's so exciting. Like all these crabs and weird tube creatures come, and for years everything is just feasting on it, and it becomes this vibrant ecosystem. And that's what a rotting redwood is. It's this great opportunity for all the little guys in that ecosystem to capture some back. Because redwoods, for all their beauty, kind of hoard resources. Anyway, Morgated Patriot is about a guy who kills the people that hoard resources. Mostly he kills them when they also do something else bad, like they hoard resources and they once refused medicine to a little 6-year-old peasant boy. They hoard resources and they kidnap and eat children, like so forth and so on. So, there's a little extra bit to it, but there's a scene where he is like a 12-year-old and he's got all these other kids chanting, kill the rich, eat the rich, or kill the nobles, eat the nobles, something like that. I forget how it went, but he makes a little song, and it did not have the nuance of kill the nobles, provided that they also commit felonies. Anyway, I'm not saying that everyone rich should be killed. Just the top 10 richest, just to make it a little scarier for them. Maybe make them think about donating a little more, Maybe they'll want to not be on that list, and we can get a little, some people divesting a bit. I just would like to see a few more companies out there, you know what I'm saying? This is really funny in light of Crunchyroll. Having a bit of a monopoly. I shouldn't talk. This is the trouble with these conventions, is I get addicted to y'all laughing, and then I start saying stuff I shouldn't say. Yes.
What media, game, or show are you really excited about right now?
I'm actually really, really into Freerun. I have nothing. Well, I directed for a couple of roles in it. I did a little bit of assistant directing for it, just a bit. But I really have not much to do with it. I just think it's fantastic. It may resonate with me because of Fullmetal Alchemist, because it's about someone who already did probably the most important thing she'll ever do. She killed the Demon King. She killed the Lord of all evil, Sauron, dead. And now all the people she did it with are getting old and dying, and she's, reckoning with that. And there's every episode just sort of has a new theme and a new question and sort of thing to ponder about time, the nature of time. There's this demon who invented something called killing magic. And he was one of the greatest threats of his era, and they weren't able to defeat him. They killed the Demon King, but they couldn't kill this guy because he was such a powerful mage. They just managed to seal him. They turned him into stone. And Freerun comes back there with her apprentice because that she knows the seal's about to come undone, and he's about to be a problem again. And they kind of build it like it's going to be this serious fight. But it turns out, she's like, you take care of this, Fern. And Fern's like, what? And she's like, this is a good chance for you to workshop on your defense spells. And the guy comes out and he's like, Prepare to endure my killing magic. I knew I would have this chance, Frieren. And he throws his spells out, and the apprentice, this 16-year-old girl, she's like, Frieren, that was basic offensive magic. What's the deal? And she's like, all right, yeah, power creep. Technology has advanced, magical technology had advanced, and that guy, what was the most incredible thing of his era, is now obsolete, useless. And this, like, the metaphor is strong. Like, you can imagine how, like, you know, it reminds you of somebody who comes out of the prison system. You know, if somebody went into prison in 1980 and they spent 30 years in prison and come out in 2010, they're like, what the hell is this smartphone? Like,
You brought a dial phone to a cell phone fight.
yeah, he brought a dial phone to a smartphone fight. Okay, we got 5 minutes left. Okay, so I want to make sure. Yes, in the mask.
So I have a two-part question. The first is, what's your favorite part of playing Shirogane? And the second one is, what's your favorite line of his?
I think I really enjoy his internal chaos. It's fun because he alternates between being light Yagami and being profoundly constipated. So my favorite line, this was in season 1 where I was self-directing, and so I was just working from home, and you're supposed to spend like 4 hours per episode basically when you're a main character. It's 35 cues per hour is what they hope you do. But I had nobody tracking me, and I love that character, and I noticed that the more I talked, like the more I strained my voice, the deeper it got, and so I was like, perfect. So I remember it was like 1 a.m., I'd been in the booth for like 4 hours, and we started the shootout with Shinomiya, the 10 questions shootout scene. And I ask her if it's an inanimate object. I ask her if it is hot or cold, if it has a noticeable temperature. I ask her all these random questions, and she's just shooting me down. She's like, nope. And then I'm like, do you like this thing? And she like goes, and Miyuki, it's that thing of where you sense the good news and you're afraid of it. Because he's like, what the hell's with that face? She is blushing, full on blushing. Why would she be blushing? Does that mean she's embarrassed? Why would she be embarrassed? Unless. And then he's like, this is it. She's confessing. She loves me so much. Yes. Oh, you sweet little vixen. You put me through it, didn't you? You know, it's all the times we shared together that got me really able to know you. And then he, like, all the symbols behind her, at first it was all these romantic things, and then he's thinking about all the times she terrified him, and he's like, this is a trap. And he realizes that she was actually talking about, because he starts asking follow-up questions, I'm sorry. He's got this bit where he's like, you need to confirm. And he, like, literally his heart is beating out of his chest, and he grabs it and shoves it back in. And he's like, hold on, you need to confirm. And he's like, is this thing blonde? Does it have piercing eyes and sharp wit? And she's like, And then he's like, it's Chica's dog, isn't it? And it was Chica's dog. And she stops acting shy the second he guesses it. She's like, yeah, congratulations, you won. Let's leave. It was fantastic. I just love that scene so much. All the dynamics in it, and then the quick pivots of emotion. It just felt like quintessential teenage flirtation, where you try to act like you care less than you do. You care a lot. Yeah. We probably got time for like 2 more questions. So anybody who hasn't asked a question. You didn't ask a question yet?
No.
Oh, ask. Okay.
I was gonna ask, what was your favorite scene to record on Dr.Stone?
Probably the putting Tsukasa on ice, actually. Yeah, that and the light bulb scene, which is a scene where I talk about how humanity conquered darkness, conquered the night, and I really describe the magic that is a city being walkable at night. It's like an amazing thing, and so often we feel very guilty about human advancement because of all the pollution that comes with it and all the problems and, you know, urban squalor and stuff like that. But Dr. Stone often takes moments to just be like, hey, It's also pretty cool that we can send a message across the world at instant speed, or it's also pretty cool that we have enough lighting to where we can work at all hours or play at all hours. Yeah, so I love that. I love that moment there. Okay, I'll do you, and then I gotta stop. I'm sorry.
Yeah. As an actor and a scriptwriter, what is the one performance that an actor gave of your work that you were absolutely blown away? That you're like, I have faith in this person. I know they're going to do a good job. And then you heard it, and you were just like jaw dropping.
Jesse Gridley, Attack on Titan. There's no question. I mean, that's just the one. Like, that was the one where I had incredibly high expectations, and they were blown out of the water. If you haven't heard it, you got to. Everyone is like, holy shit, that is the most like jaw-dropping performance I've ever heard. Truly, I think it's the best voice acting I've heard. Straight up. Yeah, she's awesome. I would love to answer other questions. I'm going to be going to my table, or am I getting lunch and then the table? Do you know?
Lunch after table.
Be fine. Y'all can leave if you don't care. It's okay. No, I won't take it as you not caring. I'll just take it as you gotta go places. Oh, you're all still here. That's so sweet. Okay, I'm gonna be here from 12:30 to 2, then I'm getting lunch, and then I'm here from 3 to 6 p.m.